Hi, I'm Andrew Reichart, and I'm here to present a paper I wrote called Together We Paint the Scene: Therapeutic Possibilities of Game Design in Tabletop Role-Playing Game Group Therapy. The QR code in the corner takes you to a page where you can download the paper and also a little zine I made to accompany it. So as we've seen, been a good bit of work using existing game systems in group therapy, but these games are originally designed for fun, not for therapy. So I'm curious whether we can actually design games to increase their therapeutic potential, maybe even for specific therapeutic effects. I'm barely scratching the surface here, but I'm just trying to take an initial stab at exploring this question. And I've got three preliminary examples of rules, customs, and approaches to gaming from the gaming world that might be therapeutically relevant. So, go. So this is basic stuff about group therapy, but it gives us some principles for considering what we might be designing for if we're trying to design a therapeutic game. The idea that since the therapeutic relationship is the main medium of healing, so rapport is the foundation and even the medium of one-on-one therapy, the group equivalent of rapport is cohesion, the ability of the group to absorb rupture and enable repair. Most importantly, from a design standpoint, is that cohesion can be cultivated. At least we can create a context that can help enable its growth. In that regard, games give us a lot to work with. Expectation setting really sets the stage for cohesion and can even kickstart it. Here's a useful little custom from gaming culture. One way of doing this is called CATS. At the outset of a game, to make sure everyone's on the same page, you discuss the concept, aim, tone, and subject matter. Concept is, what is this? Science fiction, fantasy, horror, detective, espionage? Can be anything. Aim is like the core activity of the game. Hunting monsters, epic quest, solving mysteries, palace intrigue, heist, romance. And then agreeing on tone is important because, we don't want a bunch of disruptive goofing around. But a game is not a game if it's a humorless chore. And some game concepts are more easily disrupted than others, and some gamers are more easily distracted than others. So you want to be on the same page. Subject matter, though, is the big one. Since these games can be very immersive, encountering disturbing subject matter, especially by surprise, can be disruptive or even harmful. If someone has, let's say, a phobia of spiders, we don't want to have their character attacked by giant spiders. We want to gather this sort of information during intake so it can be presented to the group while retaining anonymity. A great tool for managing subject matter is called lines and veils, which basically defines two types of limitations on what might happen in the game. Remember, participants are imagining more or less vividly, sometimes very immersively, for a sustained period. So we want anyone to be able to say that a given topic is just never going to happen on screen in the game. That's the veil. It's kept off screen. In this adventure, there will be no giant spiders. There'll be no swarms of spiders, no spiders sent by assassins waiting in your character's shoe, not even spider webs adorning a haunted house. But spiders still exist in the imaginary game world. If your game's set in the modern day, there's Spider-Man comics. That's the veil of lines and veils. What's the line? Well, doesn't come up at all. Your character's never even going to bump into a kid singing the Itsy Bitsy Spider. And so obviously this is extreme if we're talking about fear of spiders, but more likely topics are probably easy to imagine. Sexual assault, harm to children, harm to pets, torture, cannibalism, whatever. All kinds of things can happen in a game. But everyone gets to set the lines and veils. They get to do it anonymously, and they don't have to give a reason. It's just accepted. And so finally, the X card, it's basically like a wild card line or veil for when something comes up that nobody anticipated. So at any time, any player can basically just call a timeout, game stops, the story rewinds to some point before the harmful material arose, and the game just restarts from then as if it had never happened. The X card originated at games that are actually played around a table, and there was literally a card in the middle with an X on it, which anyone could just grab and physically hold up. But you don't need that, obviously. Some folks just say X card or whatever. So any group can have management tools, sure, but here we're getting more directly into the core of what is unique to role-playing games. So just playing a character is therapeutic in and of itself. There are any number of conventional interventions that are very much like this: visualizations, guided meditations. I like Insoo Kim Berg's miracle question. So simply playing these games is taking that sort of thing to a whole new level where it's not only sustained, sometimes for hours, but also by default affirmed by everyone else around you. Just think how much potential there is for someone to temporarily inhabit a different life, a more heroic life in which you're able to make choices you don't encounter in real life and struggle against and defeat obstacles that are more exciting than the ones you face in life. Obstacles that are probably going to resonate in some ways with the obstacles you face in life. It's empowering as heck. There are so many games and game rules and customs we can use or adapt as interventions. But so here's the third and last one that I've got today for this quick presentation. Paint the scene. This is a technique for involving the players in the creation of the setting. Traditionally, the facilitator, the dungeon master or game master, or whatever they're called, does all the description of the world, all the setting, the people the players encounter, all that. And the players just choose their own character's actions. However, this technique invites the players into a bit of limited collaboration. The facilitator asks the players to provide details of the shared imaginal world, but in a structured and limited way. How can you tell this house is owned by folks that used to be rich? How can you tell that palace guard is distracted tonight? What do you see in this forest that tells you winter is coming? Imagine being able to declare an aspect of the world in a way that you can't, perhaps, in real life. Not only might that give you a feeling of agency or empowerment, but you're surrounded by a group of people who automatically accept your idea as definitive. The guard looks drunk, whatever it is. How affirming is that? How cool. And maybe a nice corrective emotional experience just to be surrounded by that affirmation. So, like I said, this is just scratching the surface. There are countless rules, customs, playstyles, game elements that might be adaptable as therapeutic inventions. I think there's huge potential to design games specifically for therapeutic effectiveness. And I'm really excited to see how this avenue of exploration unfolds. Thanks.